Good evening. Good evening. Joy is in. Looks like okay. So some of you are already enrolled in the program. Some of you are just started your freight brokerage. Some of you are interested in understanding what being a freight broker is all about. Some of you have extensive amount of experience, such as myself and my colleague, Mr. Nelson, who is in this training now. You're in for a treat, actually. So welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Charles. This is the Exodus Logistics Learning Center's Freight Broker 101 training for beginners, right? Those who know very little, if anything, about being a freight broker, wanting to learn it from the beginning, or have maybe started a brokerage and just need a little push here and there. Want to know, may have gotten some training from someone else and may or may not have gotten enough that they felt they needed because you may have come across an obstacle that you weren't even familiar with, that you received in, or that you did not receive in your previous form of training. So hopefully I covered all bases. Hello everyone. Can everyone hear and see me?
Yes.
Yes.
See you.
All right. I just want to make sure. So first and foremost, why I like to do interactive training just to get some feedback from people. So until it gets to a point where the background noise interferes with the recording. But so freight brokering, why do you guys have an interest in being a freight broker? What brought you to the understanding? Okay. Can anybody share that with me? What is the reason for you wanting to become a freight broker? And if you could unmute yourself or share your thoughts. Selena, I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay, one of the reasons that myself and my business partner wanted to become a freight broker, honestly, is because we have a very close acquaintance who is a owner-operator. And
Okay.
so we see a lot of what goes on as far as the negative side when it comes to brokers, freight brokers not being right or doing shady things. So
No.
if we
No, really? Not freight brokers? No. Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And so one of the things that we want to do is step in and because from what we were told with the research that we have developed is that good freight brokers are hard to find. So if we can step in and become a part of the pool of good freight brokers and do what's right with the spirit of integrity, then that's what we want to get in it for. So
you're trying to change the perceived culture of freight brokering currently, as it currently is, right?
Not even try to change the perceived culture, because I think that's something, that's a monster that somebody else can take on, but just coming in and doing our part and what we can do when it comes to carriers and owner operators and being fair in the industry while still making a profit and building a business.
Okay, so you're Selena and Tamala coming in too. You're the two that I invited over from the seminar.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, welcome. All right.
Thank you.
All right. And is Tamala in here? Yes, she is, I believe. Yes. And T Jones, I got a sister named T Jones. This is probably her.
My name's Talia.
Okay, Talia, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
My sister tuned in to my training tonight. Okay. So, yes, so it's perceived like most carriers, when you talk to carriers, they have a, well, I don't want to say, I can't speak for all carriers, but some carriers have a perceived idea of what a broker is not, or what they should be, or that they're not paying enough money, or they keep a lot of the money from the shippers and things like that. So that's a perception. But if you come in with your perception or your concept, Selena, that you said you wanted to do with integrity and things like that. But keep in mind, as a broker too, you want to come in with integrity, but you still have to remember that you have two customers. You have the shipper that you're getting the loads from, and you have the carriers, right? You can't get paid until that load gets delivered and you invoice your customer. So your carrier is just as important as the customer. So you want to keep both sides happy. You want to keep your customers happy, the shipper with getting their loads delivered on time, and you want to keep the carriers happy by giving them good competitive rates that they'll be willing to move that freight for, right? So where are you in the process of starting a brokerage? Have you started that process yet, or?
Yes, we're actually in the process of getting our authority and everything set up, and also that's one of the reasons why we decided to do your seminar, for us to gain further knowledge as far as taking the next steps that we need to take.
Okay, so I gotta. This is good. This is good tonight because I got a hodgepodge of people who want to be brokers and who are brokers that are in various positions in that process. So I got people who just got their authorities. I got people who've been brokering. I got people who want to learn about brokering, right? So I see Joy is in here. Smile for me, Joy. So Joy is a broker. And you were active for how long? When did you get your authority active?
In November.
Okay, so she's recently, so we could kind of like bounce back and forth. I think Amy's in here too. She's a broker. I believe Amy's still in here. Yes.
Yes,
Amy.
I'm here.
Hello, Amy. She is a broker. So the perspective, so you can get variable ideas of what it's about, right? So obviously, if you want to be a broker, for those of you who are not brokers but are in here listening to a broker, there are certain requirements for you, right? So you have to have, what's the first requirement you have to have, right? Or one of the first requirements. You got to have, obviously, an authority to broker. So when you go up to the FMCSA website and apply for the authority, you fill out, you go through that whole OP1 online form, and it's going to ask you whether you want to be a broker of property or a broker of household goods, which are the two types of authority. Of course, you will select broker of property, right? Because unless you love working with moving companies like Covan, Atlas, Mayflower, select the other one, broker of property, which you'll be dealing with general freight. Okay, so that's number one. You need an authority. All right, so I'm just going to go through a little bit of the basics for those of you who have little or no idea of the requirements, right?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can we go over the process from A to Z, from getting signed up to actually the carrier getting paid?
Yes, we can. As far as from a broker's perspective, as far as getting your carrier onboarded and then getting paid from the because I'll explain it, but right, getting paid by the shipper when you invoice the shipper or your factoring company gets to invoice the shipper, right? I can do that as well. So let me cover the basics of becoming a broker, and I'll jump into your process, your life cycle of being a broker. Once you get your authority so what Joy is asking, once you get your authority and you get a shipper, a customer to move freight for, then you have to have a carrier, right? You get a carrier on board to move that freight based off of the commodity and the equipment type of the, whatever that commodity, whatever equipment type that is going to go on. And then you go through that process of onboarding a carrier, getting them approved according to your requirements, and then moving that load, following that life cycle of that load being moved, creating that rate confirmation from the load tender. And then once that load is delivered, the carrier sends you, the broker, the signed POD or signed BOL, bill of lading, which is a POD, proof of delivery. Then you are going to send that information along, your invoice to your customer so the customer can pay you. Or if you have a factory company as a broker, then you let the factory company do that for you at a quicker pace because shippers pay, they pay like net 30, net 45, net 60, things like that. So as a broker, it would be it would be a good idea to have a factoring company. Some people say most brokered loads are factored loads. So before I do that for you, Joy, let me go back a little bit, because there are some people in the listening audience who want to understand exactly what is a broker, right? So who has a question about what is a broker? I just want to make sure that. What are the duties? What are the responsibilities of a broker? What do they do? Things like that, right? No one's chiming in. Okay. Well, a broker or a logistics provider, right? That's another term for a broker, is a logistics provider. It's a middle person between their customer, the shipper, and the carrier. They are pretty much providing a service for the shipper. The shipper may not have the ability or the capacity to move all this freight. So they allow brokers to work with them. Some shippers work directly with carriers. Some shippers use brokers. Brokers is the middleman between the shipper and the carrier, the customer. So I was going over the requirements, right? The first requirement is having an authority. The second requirement, and I'll bring up the life cycle of that. Let me go to some of you are getting a glimpse of the back office. If you were to enroll, you will see this, but freely, but So the first step, so this is a life cycle of brokering, right? Broker authority application. So you file your MC docket, your authority. First you file, the applicant starts by completing and submitting the OP1 form, which is filing for your authority. That's a $300 non-refundable fee. fmcsa.dot.gov. You go on that website, you go ahead and file that, go through that process, right? You complete it, file it online, or you complete it by mail, your number is issued. Then the application is reviewed by FMCSA, which is the governing body. FMCSA stands for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And then you got two situations here. If the application is for an HHG authority, which is the household, remember I said there's two types of authorities for the broker of property and broker of household goods, right? There's broker of property and a broker of household goods, okay? You guys are selecting broker of property. So if it's this one, it'll go through an extra vetting. Don't worry about that. So this yellow one and this green one, application passes review, either of property or the household goods. The next thing you would need to get is a bond, right? It used to be $10,000 bond, but now it is a $75,000. Back in the Obama administration, the $10,000 was raised with the MAP-21 legislation. MAP-21 stands for Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century. What that did, one of the things it did, it raised the cost of the bond from $10,000 to $75,000. And one of the reasons for that was an effort to get a lot of people was applying to be brokers because the price was so cheap. But the industry was starting to become saturated with people who did not know what they were doing, right? They came in at a cheap rate. They weren't knowing what they were doing. They were kind of like saturating with a lot of people that just wasn't brokering correctly. So the bond amount was raised from $10,000 to $75,000, okay? And that's where it's at now. It's based off, well, one of the stipulations is based off of your credit, okay? So if you have a good credit rating that puts you in the 2 to 5% range, then that's a formula that you can use to determine your annual cost that you're going to pay for that bond. So 2% of 75,000 is what, 1,500? 5% of 75,000 is 3,750, right? So if you fall within that good credit standing rating, then you'll pay between that 2 and 5%, which is that annual premium will be 1,500 to 3,750 that you're going to pay for your bond. Joy, what was your bond?
$75,000.
Right. I'm saying, but what was your annual range? Was it in between 1,500 and 3,750 for the year?
I paid 2,400.
Okay, so you within that range. Yep. So she had good credit. So she
I
fell with
paid 1,800.
Amy, 1,800.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you had good credit. So the bad credit is like anywhere between the 5 to 6 up to about 13, 15%. So I don't know all the qualifiers that determines good or bad credit. I just know that the numbers are good credit is 2 to 5%. Bad credit is about 6 to 13%. Okay. And I think they use some instance of your personal credit to determine that as well. So
Shows they use knowledge and years in the industry also.
knowledge and years in the industry.
Yep. I paid 11 for mine.
You paid 1,100?
Yeah.
Oh, you must have had excellent credit. So
Years in the industry.
Yeah. Your years determine that. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we got the MC authority, we got the bond. So there's two types of bonds. They're both, you can do one or the other. Most people do the surety bond, which is the BMC 84. There is another one, the trust fund, which is the BMC 85. I mean, unless you got $75,000 laying around somewhere in escrow, I would suggest doing the BMC 84, which is the surety bond, which that's the one that you can pay. So it's basically like an insurance policy. You're just taking out $75,000 and you're just paying this much over for a year, or just spread it out monthly, so. All right. So we got the authority, we got the bond. Next, you need a process agent. And you fill that out. You go through that process on the same website. The process agent, like someone who can handle claims and legalities for you. And I believe they are allowing you to be your own process agent. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you can, but they are. So you got your bond, your MC authority, your process agent, which is the BOC3. And then at that point, there is a 10-day period where if anyone, because you applying for your authority is a matter of public record, right? So if anyone who wants to protest that, there's a 10-day window for that, right? And if anything is protested, then they'll see, well, why. If the claims or the protests are valid, then they'll go back and say, okay, well, this person protests, you need to straighten this out. Otherwise, they'll just finish on through the process and then you'll go ahead and get your authority, okay? And then of course, UCR and you need a UCR, Unified Carrier Registration. And then lastly, insurance. And insurance is becoming standard now because a lot of shippers, a lot of the customers as a broker that you're going after is going to require insurance. So it just makes sense for you as a broker to look into insurances. Some of the insurances, the main ones that we hear of, contingent cargo, liability, and E&O, errors and omissions. So here's an example of errors and omissions. Errors and omissions insurance is like, okay, say you have a shipper who has commodities that go on a flatbed, steel, lumber, things like that, okay? And the shipper requires the loads to be tarped. You neglect to tell that to your carrier, right? They get to the facility, get loaded, they strap it in, they neglect to tarp it. They get to the receiver to deliver that load, it gets rejected because it's not tarped. Errors and omissions is something that can deal with that. You made an error, you either made an error or you omitted something in communication that caused this shipment to be rejected. So it's good to have that type of coverage to cover you. Because we're human, we make mistakes, right? So any questions so far on the requirements of being a broker?
I have a question for you, Charles.
Okay, LaShonda?
Yep. Question now, if you already have started a process in regards to forming your trucking business and you have a lot of these, like your authority, your MC, will that be the same? Because you use the same numbers and MC numbers and stuff, or do you have to file for a whole new set of numbers?
I recommend it separate because you have a motor carrier authority.
Mhm.
That's different than a broker authority.
Okay,
So motor
gotcha.
motor carrier cannot take possession of that freight as a broker can with the shippers and broker it like that. So that's something separate. So are you trying to, so you currently have a trucking company?
What I did with you, remember we did this little deal and I was doing the dispatching class. So I took the dispatching with you and I said, well, let me try to I might as well dispatch my own truck. So in that process, I just started my own trucking company and bought trucks and everything, trailers and all that. So I went
Oh, I remember you. I remember you. Oh, okay. Yeah, over there in Texas. Okay. Yeah, with the bikes, right? Okay. Okay. All right. So
I'm gonna go ahead and try to, train my daughters and get them trained up with you as far as dispatching. But it only made sense for me to dispatch my own trucks. It just did. So,
right.
That's where I'm at. And I just want to learn, like, even if I'm not going to just be a broker right now, I want to learn everything. I told you that before.
Right.
So that's where I'm at with it.
Okay. Yeah. So then what was the equipment types that you had for your trucking company? Were they like dry vans? Were they, because I don't remember that.
Well, what I just purchased and they delivered to me today, I bought a 53-foot dry van, 2 of them.
Okay.
And I have two Freightliner Cascadias I purchased, and I have a 10-car hauler, a Freightliner with a 10-car hauler as well.
Okay.
So I'm looking to purchase one more truck before March, and I want to be rolling by March 1st. Okay. So the only thing I'm waiting on now is trying to get a good rate on some insurance, and it is a lot.
Okay.
It is a lot.
So yeah, I would most times I hear people say, keep the trucking and the broker side separate. But then there's cases where you can have your equipment run up under the brokerage and you can use them as assets. So you can become an asset-based brokerage. And it just broker loads to your, get loads from your shippers that can go on the equipment types that you own already, right? And then dispatch those loads internally from that. So you can kind of like, congest it all in one thing, right? So there's non-asset based brokerages, there's asset based brokerages. So you at some point.
I have a question.
Yes.
So to add the assets to your brokerage, what do you do? Go back into the FMCSA and do that? Do you
already have a MC authority for those assets, right?
Well, no, not for the assets. Because I was thinking today, I was talking to my daddy about it. I was thinking about going ahead and getting some trucks. Because I have a couple of people that'll drive. They just don't have the income to be able to get the truck. So I have, the assets to be able to purchase them, but and let them drive them. So I mean, that's what I was talking about last week. When the guy was saying I'd have to have the 2 different licenses, one for the trucking company and one for the brokerage company. So, but then now you're telling her, that you could still have assets under the brokerage. So how do I go about doing that?
Well, you could be able to amend with the FMCSA if you have assets already and you want to bring them under your brokerage. But if you already have an authority with the assets, with the trucks, right, then me personally,
I don't already have one. I don't even have a truck.
Right. So you're in the process of, so if you're in the process of buying them, then I think the process should be a little bit easier for you then. You should just be able to transition those units into the authority, into your broker authority, whatever that number is, whatever that broker MC number is. So, but I would check with the FMCSA to verify that is the proper channel to take as far as transitioning those equipment types that you don't have an authority for already under your broker authority. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we got our brokerage active now on this workflow. So the next thing is a freight broker versus a freight agent, right? So at some point, if your brokerage is moving along and you are at a point where you alone cannot handle the capacity of all the loads that you're receiving, then you can consider hiring someone under your brokerage as an agent to work under your brokerage, right? Someone who comes in and just, they're on the phone all day or visiting local shippers, getting the shippers under your brokerage, doing the workflow of moving the load from A to B, and then you as the broker, you still handle the financials. I wouldn't rely on the agent to do all the financials. I would just rely on the agent to do the cold calls, the scripts, getting the getting the shippers to on board with your brokerage by sending them a broker shipper agreement, and then moving that load through the TMS system to completion, which leads now into Joy's question. Okay. And before I do that, does anyone have a question so far? No, yes, no, yes. Okay. All right.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Eddie. What are you doing in here?
You know, I'm just snooping around.
What's going on? What's your question?
With the brokerage and stuff, because I know you about to do the same thing. And I remember on Sunday you talked to your boy Smooth, right?
Right.
And even, I'm only gonna bring this up because it's a recording. So, but Smooth brought up a lot of people ain't peep it in our class, and Smooth was like, "Oh, I could get trailers and stuff for like $7,000 to $10,000." But I be listening. He was like, "I could get trailers and stuff for $7,000 to $10,000," and I was thinking to myself, I was like, "Oh man, if he can get trailers for $7,000 to $10,000." Immediately when he said that, I went to Googling, like, how much does an average trailer cost?
Right.
Today trailers like $33,000.
Right. So he made no sense to have a connection.
And
I heard that too, Eddie.
Hey, there you go. You feel me?
Right.
So now with you opening a brokerage and everything, how does that, how can, because I'm trying to do everything through you. So how can this play out?
Let me clear that up for you first. I am not opening a brokerage. I am working with a gentleman who's on here tonight, actually, who has a brokerage already established, and I'm just coming in to.
Well, because you're the bigger name, you're the face. So let's go ahead and take the charge.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Do you think?
How does that play into? How can we make that like something that we can play into for something like ourselves? Because me, the business mind that I am, I hear something like that and I'd be like, geez, how do I link up with somebody like that know how to get some trailers? Because I know plenty of people with trucks, and I'm like, and they be riding power onlys. How can I make it benefit from myself? Now, I'm not trying to take you off the topic that you already on.
No, I can circle it back around. So if you open a brokerage and it happens to be, even if it's a non-asset based brokerage, right? And then you lease carriers, you bring carriers on under your brokerage. Or if it's an asset based brokerage and you have a few trucks, but you're thinking about expanding. Now you just came across a resource that has access to cheap trailers and you're trying to scale your business and grow it, right? So now you have this knowledge of someone who can provide a cheap trailer for your brokerage. So yeah, I mean, you can leverage that information. Information is always good if you can leverage it, right? So having that in your back pocket, being able to scale your business if you want to grow your business as far as getting more trailers for your asset-based business, because you may say, okay, I got 10 power only units. I'm doing the ports. I'm brokering loads out of the ports. But now I just got a shipper that requires dry van loads to be moved. So I'm gonna take one or two of my power only units, go over to Smooth here and get a $10,000 trailer and use that to broker my loads for my dry van shipper over here. So it's good to have that type of knowledge, right? To know and keep in your back pocket in case you need stuff like that. That way, when you go look for other trailers and you do prices, like you just said, they were like 33,000, but you just knocked the extra 23,000 off that price. Okay. So
Now, when it comes to that, because a lot of the people that I've been dealing with, they always ask, the first thing they usually ask, like, is your trailer 10 years or is the trailer 10 years old? At least 10, is it 10 years or younger?
right. So before I get too far off, some of them require that, others do not, because of what you're hauling and the safety of the trailer and whether it can contain that freight. So, okay. So let me get back into Joy's workflow here. Joy, remind me, because I know you're saying from the time that you get your shipper and move a load for your, the process of moving that load, what's all involved in that, and then the time that the carrier delivers that load, and then you invoice the shipper to get paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's say let's do this. And I'm going to do it by example. Let's say you are a broker and you have a reefer customer. So, and can everybody see my screen?
Mhm.
Yes, we can.
I'm going into the tools and resources in the back office here. And I'm going to go down to look for a shipper, right? I'm going to go to careers and food to look for a shipper. Okay. And just do some navigating here. I'm going to go to resources. And this is one of the ways, so when you first start a brokerage, and let's say that your niche, the equipment type, because the three major equipment types is dry vans, flatbeds, and reefers. Let's say you want to do reefers because you want to double your chances of making money, right? You can turn off the reefer unit and use it as a dry van, okay? So let's say, okay, well, I want to go after shippers that have freight or commodities that go in reefer units. So one of the resources, careers and food. So I'm going to navigate this. So as beginner brokers, this is one of the things that you would start doing to look for shippers to cold call. This is actually literally what you would do. So let me put this in here in the chat so you guys can have that. That's free. You're welcome. Going back in here, looking at some questions. Okay, I have another thing in the whole industry. I bring me in brokers hardest possible. Okay, so resources, right? And then we're going to go down to, we can do food and beverages, we can do meats. It depends on what you want to do in the industry. As far as looking, food and manufacturing, and distribution companies. Let's look at that. Within that, what do you want to do? You want to do beverages? Do you want to do meats? Do you want to do dairy? You know, you are a broker that specializes in reefer freight. Let's look at, I don't know, beverage companies. There's 941 of them. Joy, what is your zip code?
38016.
Within a, let's say a 50-mile radius. Beverage companies, let's do a search. You ain't got that many up there, but it's fine. There's 4 of them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you would just look at, let's look at Slim Fast. Everybody know what Slim Fast is, right? United Liquors Corporation, Southwest Beverage. So let's look at United Liquors. So you're in the Tennessee area apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So look them up, check out their website, and then you call and do a cold call, go through that process. Hey, I am, such and such with such and such brokerage. And then you try to win that with that conversation. First you look the company up, you get as much information about the company as possible. So when you make the call, even if you get to the gatekeeper, there's techniques to get past the gatekeeper to get to the person in charge of the freight, okay? Once you get into the person in charge of the freight, then you start your conversation by how you can help them by being their logistics provider. First, you ask them, well, are you satisfied with your current logistics provider? What services that you feel that they are not doing that you want them to do, and that we could offer to you? Whatever, however you do that, right? And then once you get past that point, they're going to say either one or two things: either send me your setup packet, or can you quote a lane for me, right? So now here we are. Can you quote a lane for me? Then okay, well, what's the lane? They're going to say Memphis, Tennessee to Atlanta, Georgia. Then of course you ask them a series of questions, and I'm doing a high level here, right? I'm just giving you an overview because I can't do all this in a 2-hour training. We have to do it step by step, right? But this is the process, right? So they'll ask you quote a lane. You'll say, okay, what's the commodity? What's the lane? Memphis, Tennessee to Atlanta, Georgia. How many stops is it? What are the accessorials? Different things like that. And you go do your research on that lane, do competitive rates, come back with a number that includes your margin on top of that number. So say that lane paid from Memphis, Tennessee to Atlanta, Georgia, it paid, I don't know, $2,500. What have you decided, Joy, that's going to be a margin that you're going to mark up for your brokerage service? 12%, 15%, 20%?
I've seen people, I mean, do 10 and 15, but I mean, what's the going?
I think James is
Right.
doing 20. I think that's the cap. James, you're doing 20, right?
The lady that I took my first class with, she said hers is 37%.
Well, damn. That's who said that? Who just made that statement?
That's Amy.
37.
And she's still brokering?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Okay, so this is what I mean, I was talking to my brother today because me and him are going, we're gonna do the trucking side. So because it's a little like more double dipping.
Right.
So with the broker, you do the 15, and then with the trucking, with them driving under your authority, you can do the 10, right?
Well, you could actually do more with the trucking.
Really?
I've seen, so you're saying with, you got owner operators leasing under your trucking authority and
Right.
you're charging them a percentage. I've seen 15 to 20. I've seen somebody charge somebody 25%, which is kind of ridiculous, but
Okay.
under the trucking side. The broker side, the numbers I've seen is anywhere between 12, 15, up to about 20%. And what we mean, guys, those of you who are following, but kind of like not, really understanding it. So as a broker, when you win a customer as your customer, you are brokering their load. You are the logistics provider for their load. So you're the middle person. You're taking their freight, putting it on the carriers that you've contracted with, and shipping that to wherever the shipper wants it to go. But you are charging for that service. So when I say what are your margins, what is your percentage of that? So in the example I just said, Memphis, Tennessee to Atlanta, Georgia, the shipper says, my target rate for this amount is X amount of dollars, right? So let's say $3,000, right? So 15% of that is, let me break out the calculator, because if the shipper's target rate is non-negotiable and you want to work with that shipper, then you'll take that, right? You just got to accept it if you want to work with them. So let's say that load, Memphis to Atlanta, was $3,000 for that shipper that you're trying to win. 15%, let's say for the sake of argument, Joy, that you took 15%, that was your standard markup. So 15% is $450. So when you give it to the carrier, you are giving it to the carrier minus the $450, because you got to take out your service, right? Your percentage. And because that shipper's rate wasn't negotiable. Now, there are other cases where when the shipper asks you for a quote, then there's room for negotiation, because now you went into a load board, you got the regular spot market rate for that lane, Memphis to Atlanta, and it was $3,000, right? So let's stick with the $3,000 number. And again, your range was 15%. Then you say, okay, 15% is $450. So I'm going to add $450 to the $3,000, right? and that'll be $34.50. So I'm going to come back to the shipper and say, okay, we can do that. We can run that, broker that lane for $3,500. So there you've just negotiated. You just marked your numbers in on it like that, right? In any case, let's say you win that now. So let's get into the workflow of moving the load. So let's say the shipper says, okay, yeah, that's cool. Send me your broker shipper agreement. Do you have a broker shipper agreement yet, Joy?
Yes.
Okay. So a broker shipper agreement on the broker side is what the broker sends to the shipper to set up an agreement for them so they can, it's a contract to move loads, right? The broker shipper agreement contains your credentials as a broker and the agreement itself and a credit application to run on the shipper, right? So you have your broker authority, broker of property, your bond, either a BMC 84 or a BMC 85. This is what they look like. These are just snapshots of them, okay? Your W-9 as your brokerage. And this is just an example of a contingent cargo insurance because you're just giving the shipper the bare minimum to get set up. Because you want to get set up with them as quick as possible so you can start moving loads for them as quick as possible so you can start making money as quick as possible, right? So you send that and then your credit application, either, you know, whoever you're factoring with or what have you, your credit application, okay? And then that's the shipper packet. Here's the carrier packet. You're gonna need a carrier packet as well, but we're gonna get to that process. You send that to them, the shipper sends it back, you're set up. They start to send you loads now. They're gonna send you a load, what's called load tenders, right? Do you have a shipper yet? You don't have a shipper yet, do you, Joy?
I do. She's a friend of mine, but I just don't want to put people on and they don't, you know, and they not producing. I'm just kind of shaky process. So
Okay.
but yeah, I have a shipper.
Okay. Are they rates pretty good or no?
So she sent me the one, let me see, it was from Memphis to Springfield, Missouri. For a 53-footer dry van, it was $900, and then for the flatbed, it was $1,100.
Okay,
and so it came up to be like a little over $3 a mile.
Okay, so let's do that.
That was one. That was only one of the loads. Let me see, because she said I could actually get them and they could just be dedicated, but I don't want to mess her up. And then I've worked for that company before, so I know them, you know, so I don't want to jump in and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, you know. So,
okay, so from Memphis to Springfield, Missouri, that's what you said?
Yeah.
So that's a 280, so here it is right here, the map. That's a 285 mile, 286 mile trek right here, Memphis, and it's going northwest, right? Springfield, Missouri. So 286 miles. And you said the dry van is paying, what was the dry van paying?
Dry van is, hold on, I think it's hold on.
900. That's a good, that's the shipper's target rate. So I'm glad you're saying this because I want to give everybody a real world example of.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up now on this because she sent me the whole sheet. Oh, I guess I don't have it on here, but I have the one from Houston to Piperton, Houston, Texas to Piperton for $950.
Okay, so let's look that one up. So this is what you would do, guys. Houston, Texas. Spell Piperton, P-I-P-E-R?
Piperton. Piperton, Tennessee. Yeah.
Tennessee, okay. Okay, so that's 500. So let's say 600 miles, right? 598.5.
950.
Okay, so that's not a good rate.
No, that one's not. Okay, so Sweeney, Georgia to Pembroke.
So let me explain. So before we move to the next one, let me explain to people why that's not a good rate for those who want to be brokers, right? So what equipment type was that Houston, Texas to Piperton, Tennessee.
So that was a 53-footer.
A drive-in, right? So a 53-foot drive-in from Houston, Texas to Piperton, Tennessee for a drive-in. So coming out of Houston, the average cents per mile for a drive-in would be what? So we can go to a resource that we use on our dispatcher side. It's called the DAT trend line, so you can get comparative average rates, right? So let's do that. Let's go to, and I think it's in here too under resources. Let me double check to help you guys. So I try to put as much resources back here. Here it is right here, DAT trend lines on the broker side, okay? So what I'm doing is when you are sent for the drive-in, okay, so national rates for a drive-in. So we got 3 major equipment types that we deal with as, you know, in the industry. There are others, but the 3 major ones is where you're going to make your money. 53-foot drive-ins, 53-foot refrigerated trailers, or what we call reefers, and then 48 or 53-foot flatbeds. So here's DAT trend lines. On average, coming out of the Houston area, which is, this is the Southwest zone. Texas is a state in the Southwest zone. Each zone has a certain amount of states in it. Southeast zone for the drive-in on average is $2.29. Northeast zone, $2.17 on average. And these are the states in there: New York, Maine, Connecticut, things like that. Midwest zone, which is a large zone, $2.73 for a drive-in equipment type, okay? And let me know if you guys, if I'm going too fast and you have questions and you're starting to feel lost, I can break it down even further for you, okay? So we're in, she said, Joy said Texas, so that's the starting point. So coming out of Texas, on average, there's for a drive-in, $2.24 a mile. So getting back to her example, she said that load coming was paying is 600 miles, 598.5, but it's only paying 950. So why is that not a good rate? Because if you take the cents per mile that you figure out, cents per mile means that how much a carrier is willing to make off of that load, right? Cents per mile, right? So you take the dollar value that that one was paying, $950. In this example that Joy just mentioned, that her shipper is paying for that load, right? $950, and you divide it by the miles that is going from Houston to Piperton, which is, we're gonna round 600 miles. That's $1.58. That's well below that average coming out of Houston, Texas.
Okay, so how do you go back to her? Because I know she said, you know, I tell her what, you know, what I'm looking for. So how do you go back to them to ask for more?
You go back, first you gotta figure out what that number is, right? So let's figure that out. So if the average is 224, let's say the minimum is $2. Let's just say $2. We don't want to be at, let's just say $2 starting out. Or let's just say 215. Let's meet halfway between 2 and 224. Let's say 215. So we would take $2.15 and we would multiply that by that loaded miles, that 600 miles. And what do you get? You're going to get $12.90. So we'll say 1,300. So when you go back to her and say 950, can you do it for 13? Because 950, I don't think any trucks is going to move that out of Houston for 950. There's no way. Can you do it for 13? You may be able to do. You got enough wiggle room to give me 13? And the shipper's going to either say yay or nay, right? But if you want that low, how bad do you want to move? How frequently you want it coming out of there? And if you want good carriers moving that load, I'll take 13. But remember, you also want to get a rate too that you want to add your margins in there too, right? Because this is her tender, this is her target rate. So her target rate was 950 that she wanted to move it for. That wasn't enough to move it. Your rate is the 1,300 plus whatever your margin is. If you can do that, you're really winning, Joy.
Okay.
So if 1,300 times your, what is it, 15%? So 13 times 15%, 195. So you add another 200. So let's say 1,500. Now, if you can move it at 1,500, then, and they agree to that, then you're good. and you take 1,500 divided by that 600 miles, that's $2.50 a mile. So that's above the average cents per mile coming out of Houston anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Sweeney, Georgia, they had one on there for like $3.02. It would be like $3.02 a mile.
Okay. And what
But
is?
I've heard that it's hard to get freight coming out of Florida too.
So yeah. So you got something coming to Sweeney, Georgia, going into Florida.
To Pembroke.
What equipment type? Flatbed?
No, it's a 53-footer.
Drive-in.
Yeah.
It depends on how far in Florida is it going. Like, is it going like to the top, like Tallahassee, Jacksonville? Is it going to Miami, Orlando? Is it going to down
Pembroke Park.
Okay, so Sweeney, Eeeney, Sweeney, Georgia.
SWE. I mean SUWANEE. SUWANEE.
Got it. Yeah.
Like Pembroke Park, like South Florida, Pembroke, like Broward County.
Yeah. So I'm gonna type that in. Pembroke
Park,
Florida. It's gonna show it on the map exactly where it's at, right? And the mile. So it's 678 miles. And on the map here, and this is things that you guys, as brokers, you will have to.
That's in Broward.
Yes, in Broward. So it's way down there. Man, you're gonna be in the Bahamas in a minute. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're gonna have hell coming out of there. Unless it depends on the season too. You can get some produce working your way back up. Some produce, water. Jeez, man. See, stuff like that though. As a broker, then you need to be familiar with where the lane is going and the probability of getting stuff out of there before you decide to commit to it. Because once you commit to it, then you don't want to pull your hair out because man, I'm committed to this, going all the way down here. Unless I can get something coming out of it, like if that shipper has something coming out,
Charles, I have a question.
Yes.
About that. So you were saying that it's good to know your lanes. How do you even go about doing your research to know your lanes? Like, right. Joy, like, how did you know that it was going to be hard coming out of Florida?
Well, my fiance and my daughter's father drives trucks, so that was one thing they said, and I heard it on another call. I don't know if it was on here when Mr. Nelson was talking or not. I believe it was Mr. Nelson that was saying that it would, it's kind of hard coming up out of Florida.
Oh, okay.
You could check DAT.
You can
check. DAT will tell you like how many trucks coming in and out of Florida. It'll tell you how many trucks coming in and how many loads going out.
Yeah, right. I have the subscription with DAT too. So I know we were saying that we was going to, whatever dedicated that we did get, then we make sure that they had something coming back before we actually sent somebody out that way.
Right. So be mindful though, guys. You have a person who's asking this who has no knowledge of it at all. So we want to be, you know what I'm saying? So DAT is the load board, right? DAT is one of the load boards that's used. DAT stands for dial a truck, DAT, right? 123 load board is a popular one. Internet truck stop is a popular one. These load boards, some of the features on the load boards give you analytics to help you determine, like if you were dispatching, where to send your carriers, like what states have a high volume of inbound and outbound freight. And then from a broker side, it'll tell you that certain lanes, based off of, again, analytics of, and the commodities and things like that of whether or not, if you want to get a shipper in that and sending freight down into that area or not, right? So it's just a resource to use depending on the version of the load board that you have. Like DAT comes in several versions. DAT has Trucker's Edge, it has Pro, it has Power, it has Express. Express is for brokerage and carriers. Power is for brokers as well. So it's just different resources, understanding the parts of the country, the seasons, certain seasons that sometimes you can get freight out of Florida. Now, I don't want to I don't want to give a person a misconception that it's hard to get freight out of Florida all the time. If you are in the season in that particular state, like Florida has like produce season and fruits and things like that, water. If it's the season for that, then you can move freight out of there. But during the off seasons, you're going to have a hard time. Like you may have to. Go ahead.
I was going to say, but wouldn't it also leave you in a position to also negotiate a higher rate as well?
It would, if that shipper is willing to do that, right? If they want that freight, well, not necessarily, because the shipper's you're only moving a line haul lane, right? Line haul is from origin to destination. The shipper's not saying like a back haul, right? But if you're going down there, you could use that as leverage and argue and say, okay, I'm considering taking this lane. We agreed that we up the rate from $950 to $1,500, so we can, I can make a little money. But I need something, to help me, get my carrier out of there. Do you have a satellite facility in the area that moves freight back out of Florida to other destinations? Things like that. So,
okay.
So you can kind of leverage that. So
would that be considered like setting up like a dedicated route?
It can be considered set up a dedicated route if the shipper is saying, okay, I got this lane going from Suwanee, I guess, Georgia, to Pembroke Park, Florida, and then back from Pembroke Park up to Atlanta, right? Because we got 2 facilities in Atlanta. Instead of shipping that freight from Suwanee to Atlanta, it first needs to go down to Pembroke Park and then come back. A partial need to be offloaded and then come back up or whatever, the relationship is. So it could be, Eddie, yes. Do you have any more? Because I'm going to show one of mine. Do you have any more, Joy?
If you wanted to check another one, she had this one for Piperton to Basin, BASIN, for $2,275.
Woo! There we go. Now we're getting into the guap. So, okay, so spell what was the first city?
Piperton, Piperton, Tennessee. And it just has to Basin, BASIN. I don't know where that is.
Basin, Tennessee, or Basin, North Carolina?
It might be North Carolina. I don't see it.
It has to be, for that amount.
Yeah.
So, is there a zip code on there? Because there should be a zip code on there.
No, there's not. And it's a couple of them. She didn't give me the zip code on them. I could actually.
So that's another thing.
But I'm thinking it's probably North Carolina because I used to work there, and most of their, the company was based out of North Carolina. So
okay.
I know a lot of our shipments came from North Carolina.
Okay, so as brokers too, that's another thing too, guys. As brokers, when you're getting tenders from shippers for loads and stuff like that, make sure you get the zip to zip. That way you can look it up specifically where it's going, because sometimes the tenders will have incomplete information.
Right, because there's a lot of incomplete on here. But I wasn't trying to move forward. I was able to check. I was checking the rates to see, so that I could, talk to some people about it. But I just don't want to put people on. I'd rather somebody that's really close to me drive first. So, so my score I want to raise my score at least 3 months.
That's very smart. So where we are, as a reminder, where we are now, this is a process where you've already gotten your authority active. You've gotten a shipper. So Joy has communicated, did her due diligence, got a shipper, whether she knew the person, whether she did cold calling, whether she actually physically visited the facilities. Whatever the process was, Joy has a shipper. The shipper gave her a load tender with a targeted rate. Now she's in the process of seeing, how to move that, right? So this one here, which I can't, Piperton, Tennessee to Basin, North Carolina. It didn't even pop up on my map, which is weird.
Maybe it's Georgia. Nope.
But for 2275, that's gotta be a distance that's River Basin, Basin Street, Raleigh, North Carolina, Basin. Huh. 'Cause I wanted to get the distance of it. Does it
I'm
have
gonna
a,
call her. I'm gonna call her real quick.
okay, God, they say, does it have a loaded miles on the tender?
Nah.
Okay. And then while Joy's calling, anyone has a question in this process here?
Sorry. That the load from Piperton to Basin. What is it? Basin what? Georgia, North Carolina? What you say? Wyoming.
There it is.
Okay. I'm in this broker class and I was they showing me how to do the loads and all that. I know, I'm scared, but I don't want to put you in a pickle, so I'm trying to learn. I got some.
Okay, so we got it Piperton, Tennessee to Basin, Wyoming. That's why the rate was so high. That kind of, once I saw that, I was like, well, that got to be a lot of miles. That's 1,438, let's say 1,440 miles. So when she gets off the phone, I'm going to ask her what equipment type is it. I'm going to assume it's a dry van. But what's the cents per mile? Remember how we figured out cents per mile? We took the amount, which is $22.75. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, Joy.
Oh, I did not mean. Oh, no, she told me to stop playing. I was playing. she said, I got these loads and you playing. But I'm gonna start.
So 22.75 divided by 1,440 miles. That's not a good rate. Right? It's $1.58 per mile, right? Because it's coming out of Tennessee, right? So we go back to our van rates. Tennessee areas in this Midwest / almost Southeast area. It's going from here all the way over to Wyoming, right? Over the road, long distance, long haul, right? So
then I go to her and ask her for more.
You definitely ask her for more, because put yourself in the carrier's position. 1,440 miles. How much fuel are they going to burn for that, right? So let's do the math on that real quick. I'm going to give you guys a little lesson on the fuel, right? So
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you also factor in some money like due to weather conditions?
Yeah, you can, but that's a rare one, because
what if they get stuck in Wyoming, or what if they don't even make it? Like, what if 80's closed by the time they get there, 90's closed?
I see what you're saying, like an accessorial, like layover or something like that.
Right.
Right. Yeah, you can consider that. But then what the driver would do when the broker, like Joy, she puts this load on a load board, and whatever day and time that is posted coming out of Piperton and going up to Bison, if I was a driver, I would check that. I would check the weather conditions and see what's going on in the route and see alternate routes. And if any of the main routes or alternate routes is going to put me in a position that's dangerous, that's going to put me in a position where I'm going to be sitting up there stuck for a while, because you're going to a dead freight state, right? Wyoming is like, there's not a lot of loads coming out of there, right? So the chances you are getting stuck is kind of a little bit greater, right? You're going up there, so you can kind of, and a driver will be like, well, yeah, it's going to a dead freight state. There's a possibility I may get stuck because of the time of year I'm hauling up there, and the weather, things like that. So yes, okay. But a typical tractor trailer gets about 6 miles to the gallon, right? On average, a tractor trailer, 6 miles to the gallon. So keep that number in mind. I'm going to give you a perspective, and Joy, this is mainly for you, so you can kind of leverage this information to go back to your shipper friend and ask for more money, because a carrier is not going to haul that, right? Because the number one expense is fuel. That's 1,440 miles, right? So you take 6 miles to the gallon, you take 1,440 miles. I rounded up, it was 1,438, but 0.2, right? But I just rounded up. 1,440, you divide it by the 6 miles per gallon. So 1,440 divided by 6 is 240. So that means 240 gallons is going to be required to haul that load. So now, right?
Can you do that calculation again?
You take the miles, the total miles of that loaded miles from the time that carrier picked that load up in Piperton, Tennessee, till they delivered it in Basin, Wyoming, which is 1,440 miles divided by 6, which is the average miles per gallon that a tractor trailer gets. So if you take 1,440 miles and divide it by 6 miles per gallon, it's going to give you the number of gallons that's required to run that 1,440 miles, right? So 1,440 divided by 6, that means you need 240 gallons of fuel to run that load. So now you take the 240 gallons and you multiply it by the price of fuel, right? What's the average price of diesel fuel? Now, remember, over 1,440 miles, you're going to be hitting different states. So the cost of fuel may fluctuate. But on average, give me an average number of fuel. Some people might say between $2.75 and $3.20, right? So let's just say $3. Diesel fuel on average is about what, $3 a gallon? Does that sound about right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's just take 3 for an example, 3. So 240 times 3. So he's gonna have to spend $720 in fuel to run that 1,440 mile load. Now that's 720 gone. So the load paid $22.75, right? 720 of it just got spent in fuel. As a carrier, right? Am I making money?
And doesn't she also have to take her percentage off of that? That's
Right.
$22.75.
Exactly. I haven't even counted that yet. I just gave a carrier. And you're absolutely right, Selena. But I didn't even count that. I'm just thinking of the carrier's perspective. So as a broker, if you have this knowledge too, you can leverage that and go back to the shipper and say, hey, I appreciate that load, but I'm going to need a little bit more because the carrier is going to require so much for fuel. This is paying this amount. It's not the right cents per mile for going from here to there. I'm going to a dead freight, which is going to be hard to get out of unless you got a load coming out of there, or a manufacturer or distributor or a shipping facility coming out of there. So I gotta find them a backhaul on the load board on the spot market getting out. So that load, if you can't get more, Joy, I would not commit to it.
Now, Charles, let me ask you, let's say, new broker, they may not know any better, and they take that load.
Ouch.
They put it on the load board and they cannot get a carrier. What happens at that point?
Then you go back to the shipper and try to get a higher rate, because there's first of all, you find out, you educate yourself. Well, you're going to get educated because carriers are going to tell you why they're not taking the load. It's going to sit there for forever because carriers, they know that load is not paying well. $22.75 is not nowhere near enough for that load because it's, number one, it's going to an area that's a dead freight state. It's hard to get loads out of. And the rate is below what it should be because the fuel costs are high too. So now the question becomes, when you go back to the shipper and they agree with you and they say, well, what do you want in that rate? So now, Joy, if you go back to your friend and she says, okay, well, I offered it at $22.75. What do you think it should be, right? Now, what do you do, right? You take a good cents per mile that you think the carrier would move that. Was this a dry van load?
Yes.
Okay.
Driving.
So coming out of Tennessee, right? On average, let's say 230, let's say 225. Right, per mile. Let's just lowball it. Okay. So you would take 225 a mile times that 1438, or we said 1440 because we rounded up. So 1440 a mile, 3240. I say I would go as high as 3,500 because I want to add my margins in too, right? So if your friend asks you, okay, well, it's not moving at $22.75. What do you think, Joy, is going to move at? 35? And then see what they say. Because
because she said XPO. She said XPO always come back with a higher when she says they be killing them. So, they lowball it in the beginning. I know how the company is. It's a small mom and pop, but they're getting bigger.
Right.
So I know they always lowball, but you end up the carrier end up getting more money than actually what they have, you know, actually listed the load for. So
Right.
that's just something that she, you know, she sent me, but she was like, she said, don't go for that. She said, ask for more. So, you know, she couldn't, you know, put it on there, but she said, ask for more.
Right.
So,
yeah, because as a broker, you want to, remember, you want to keep your carrier happy. You always want to keep your carrier happy because remember, these are the individuals who's actually moving the freight for you so you can make your money. So wouldn't it not make sense to keep them happy as well? Of course, you're going to keep your shipper happy to provide the income for you, but you want to pay your carriers enough money so they can be motivated to move that load, right? Because they're the ones who's picking it up. They're the ones who's driving 1,440 miles. They're the ones who's going to areas that they may or may not be able to get loads out of, things like that. So to keep them happy is ideal, right? So that's the process. So let's go into this further in this life cycle for Joy's benefit, that the shipper agreed to give Joy 35 for the load. So she took her margins off. She made her money. The carrier made 3,300. The carrier picked the load up at the shipper, right? So here's the process that you were asking about, Joy. The carrier picked the load up at the shipper. They received what's called a BOL, right? A bill of lading. BOL stands for bill of lading. It's the paperwork that shows the pallet count, what's being loaded on the truck, everything's accounted for. And prior to COVID, most carriers were able to go into the facilities and watch the freight being loaded or look at the freight when it's finished loaded before they closed the doors to verify that everything was good. The pallets were stacked in nice before they signed that area on the BOL where the shipper signed that everything was accounted for, the pallet counts was good, the shipper signed it, the carrier signed an initial next to that. They tore their carbon copy off the shipper, and now the carrier has 2 copies left. They're transporting now from Piperton, in this example, Piperton, Tennessee, to however many days it takes. That's about a 2-day, maybe 3-day trip, right? 1,400 miles. You're driving about 65, 70 miles an hour. You can go 11 hours straight as a driver as far as hours of service. So it's going to take so many days. I would say, well, you're going through the Rockies though, so you're going to have problems climbing those 5 to 7% grade hills. So how much weight is on that freight?
let me see if it's on here. I think I probably, when I screenshot it, I don't think I got all that. Hold on.
So usually if it's a truckload, it's about 38 to 40,000 pounds, maybe more. And the reason
No, I don't have it on here. I didn't screenshot that portion.
Yeah, usually it's 38 to 40,000 pounds, maybe more. I'm asking because, climbing at those 5 to 7, ascending and descending those hills in the Rockies, you're burning more fuel and it's more dangerous, especially going down with the momentum and all that weight. You got to be careful, Jake brakes and brake pads and things like that. So, so it could take a little bit longer. So maybe 3 days, 4 tops, because you got to do resets for your carriers and all that stuff. And as a broker from Piperton to Basin, you're doing what's called check calls. As a broker, you're checking on the freight. You call the carrier when they're at the shipper, picking the load up, so you can update your shipper agent that carrier is there at January 27th at 0900 or whatever time, picking it up, and then you update your either via telephone or email. This is what brokers do. They do check calls on the carriers so they can update their customers while the load is under transit, right? These are some of the things you're going to be doing as a broker. You're going to be doing this, okay? And then about the halfway point, or what you assume to be the halfway point, you will do another check call to the carrier while he's on the road. So when you get carrier set up in your brokerage, you usually get on the carrier profile the full name of the carrier, of the driver, their cell number, and truck and trailer number, so you can do check calls. Halfway point, you call them and say, how's it going? Everything's good? There's no problems? Yeah, I'm good. I'm halfway there. I got another day and a half. Okay, good. I'm going to update my customer. Click. You update the customer. Carrier's still in transit. He's due to arrive on time at the receiver. Everything's good, no problems, right? And then when he gets to the receiver, in this example, in Basin, Wyoming, or what you expect them to be at the time that they got there, you call and say, are you there yet? Yeah, I'm just pulling in. They told me to pull in door 3, about to get offloaded, right? That's another check call. That's typically what brokers do with check calls. They'll do it when they pick it up, about midway point, and when they deliver, okay? So in that process, now the carrier is at the facility, the receiver being offloaded, right? They're finished offloading, they call the carrier in, they verify that everything that the carrier picked up at the shipper is accounted for, nothing is damaged. So the receiver now in Basin signs that area to verify everything was good. The carrier signs next to that, verifying it as well. They tear that copy off. So now what the carrier has left, Joy, is a final signed BOL with all signatures from the shipper, the receiver, and the carrier verifying everything. This signed BOL is now a POD, a proof of delivery. It is the invoice because the carrier is going to send it to you, the broker. And the broker is either going to pay the carrier same day or next day if they have a factoring company, and then their factoring company or your factoring company, Mr. or Mrs. Broker, is going to invoice the shipper to get paid, right? That's the process, okay? But the carrier got to initiate that process by sending a completed load or a signed BOL or what's called a POD, a proof of delivery. That piece of paper with all signatures on it, his trailer is empty, everything's accounted for, nothing's damaged, no claims filed or nothing. Send it to you, either a snap picture of it, scan it to you, however you get it to you. That's the invoice. That and your invoice you're going to send to your shipper either directly, Joy, or through your factoring company, right? You have a factoring company, right?
Yeah, TBS.
TBS, okay. So that's the process, okay? And once you do it a few times, it becomes second nature, right? Now, for brokers who
I just got to do it.
right, you just got to do it. You know, you got that. Sometimes we have a fear factor. You know, success is on the other side of fear, right? Success is on the other side of fear. You just got to go around it, got to go through it. You know?
I know it's tax season too, so I think that's I have a tax office, so I'm kind of juggling both, so.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm going to get it going.
Okay, but that's the workflow. Now, you have a TMS system, you have a transportation management system?
No, I talked to a guy the other day. I think it's called Rose something. Hold on. Because he actually reached back out to me.
Okay, I'm gonna go to TMS. While you're doing that, I'm gonna go to TMS systems because I give you guys ideas about TMS systems as well. And we have a PDF of the list of different TMS systems to use. What I'm going to be working with Mr. Nelson is a TMS system called Load Manager, which is a good one. We have a lot.
Yeah, you told me something, so I probably need to do that one.
Well, we got the easiest one for you is Ascend to get you started. But I got a top 10. Well, not necessarily a top 10, but there's some on this PDF on the screen here. Load Pilot. You got Algex, eFreight Solutions, Access, Ascend, but here's some right here. So these are good TMS systems as well. A TMS system, guys, for those who don't know, is a transportation management software. So it handles the workflow and the life cycle of load movement and organization of your brokerage, right? You have your customers in there. You have your assets or carriers in there. It deals with document management, accounting, either accounts payable or accounts receivable. You can build a load in the TMS system. So let me give you an example of one, because I have one, Ascend, and
it's Rose Rocket.
Rose Rocket, okay. This is not on the list, but that's a good one too. DAT has one built in, and then Truck Stop has one built in too. So depending on the version. Truck Stop Broker, TMS Broker, DAT Broker TMS right here, number 6 and number 4, Truck Stop. You click the links, it opens them up. But before I go to my Ascend TMS, any questions?
Nope.
Any questions for the newer people or those who are expressing interest in being a broker? And the process.
All of those that you just listed, those are in the back office, correct?
Yes, who's that? Amy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the back office under TMS, right here.
Okay.
TMS, where is that? Freight broker, TMS Systems, right here. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So here's one.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Who's this?
Oh, perfect. This is Alex. I've been trying to tell the whole day. Hey, yeah, I'm so sorry. Hey, just quick question. At what time brokers start taking phone calls, usually?
From carriers about booking loads or taking phone calls or making phone calls to shippers?
No, like from carriers.
It depends on how do you want to structure your business. 9 a.m., depending on what time zone you're in. 8 a.m., I've seen brokers do it at 7 a.m. So they can get, the earlier the better, because brokers get a head start of moving loads and stuff like that, especially if you got a high volume of loads you have to move, then the earlier you start, the better. So what time zone are you in, Alex?
I'm in Central Time, down here in Texas.
You're in Texas, okay. So let's see. What
I
is
start at 5:30 every morning, y'all.
5:30? There you go. That's Mr. Nelson. That's my partner there, Mr. Nelson, right there. 5:30 a.m.
Yeah, it's weird because I've seen some other people saying that, you know, they wake up at 4 o'clock and, you know, start, you know, going through their loads, make sure some of them are moving. And at the same time, they post loads that they receive new ones. So by 7 o'clock, they start receiving phone calls. So even before that.
Right,
okay.
because you got carriers who are looking for loads like at an earliest possible time. So if you are a broker and you put your loads on the load board, you know, post them on the load boards, all the load boards, and get them out there, then you're gonna start getting phone calls, and you kind of at an advantage, so you can start trying to move your loads because you have a certain workflow and a process you want to get done in that day. You say, hey, I want to move about 10 loads today. Okay, these are the loads. These are where they're going. I'm gonna post them now, and then while I'm waiting for phone calls, I could be doing other things. My to-do list as a broker. What are all the things you got to do as a broker? Well, number one, you want to get your loads out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the main concern, like, you know, was for me when I started a business as a broker, is to find a shipper. Like, usually, how long does it take to find a shipper? If you know.
That's an open-ended question and a variable question. It depends on the person. Depends on you, your level of motivation. How willing are you to put in the work, right? Whether it's cold calling, like if you live within a certain radius, if you're doing Google searches, if you're searching on different online resources like ThomasNet, McRae's Blue Book, Hunter.io, different resources, careers in food, like we were just looking at, and you have facilities that, well, let me back up a little bit. Say first you have to find like whatever niche that you're gonna target your customers in, like whatever one you decide, whether it's gonna be commodities that go on a dry van, or commodities that go on a flatbed, or commodities that go on a reefer. Once you make that decision, then you target manufacturers or become familiar with the supply chain, right? Supply chain logistics, raw materials, manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, retailers, end users, right? So manufacturers and distributors, those are prevalent in pretty much every major metropolitan area. So wherever you live, within a certain radius, 25, 30 miles, target those manufacturers and distributors that are within your niche that you can drive to and see if you can set up an appointment to talk to the logistics people directly. If they are outside of your driving radius, then you get into what's called the cold calling realm, right? You start cold calling people in your niche still, right? Call them in your niche that are outside of your drive arena that you got to cold call. They're in different cities, maybe different areas, because you're looking all over the country. So if your niche is popular and moves a lot of freight in the Midwest, but you're in Texas, you still want to call them because they're still your niche. They're just in areas of the country that is nowhere near you, but still move a lot. Right? Yeah. Say you're in the dry van niche. You can move dry van freight in the, what you say you're in Texas. Are you in the Metroplex? Are you in DFW? Are you
yeah, I'm in Houston right now.
Okay. So you can look over to Dallas. You can do your area. Midwest is good for dry van if that's your niche. Southwest is good for dry van if that's your niche. And then you just target those areas, either cold calling or driving directly to them. And then you start the process of selling yourself. You have to be a good salesman or a saleswoman, you know, in order to convince, because you are trying to convince somebody in no uncertain terms and in a certain amount of time you have to convince them that you want to be their logistics provider for them, right?
Perfect.
What makes you different? Because if I'm a shipper, I'm going to ask you the number one question. What makes you different than the people I've been working with, although I'm not satisfied with them? What makes you different? How can you solve my problem? You know, and that's a question you have to think about. If you was to talk to me right now and I play the role of a shipper, that's one of the questions I'm going to ask you. Depending on how you pitched to me, how you spoke to me, I'm going to come back at you, you know, to see what level of understanding you have of my company, and then what can you do to solve my problem, even whether or not you recognize my problem. Even if you don't even recognize the problem I have, I'm going to dismiss you, right? Because you're wasting my time. I got to manage this multi-million-dollar facility. I get calls and emails all the time. I just thought you just happened to catch me on a good day and we had a sit-down meeting, or you caught me on the phone. So now you got 30 seconds to convince me to give you my millions of dollars of loads, and you're able to solve that problem. Are you ready to do that?
Yeah, all the time. Hey, just a last question real quick. You know, as a broker with so many load boards out there, like, is any other way that you can, you know, once you post your load, like, can it go to many load boards as possible? You know, you have to go one by one, or how it goes?
There's one by one, but there is one out there called Post Everywhere. Let me bring that one up. You post it once, it takes about 32 load boards simultaneously. You would have to get a subscription to it. So it's called, and for all new brokers, this can help you guys. It's called Post Everywhere, okay? Post a load once, it touches about 32 load boards simultaneously. Now, whether these load boards are looked at by all the carriers at the same time, I don't know, but the feature is good. You know, if you can post something once and it hits 32 different outlets, then you increase your probability of somebody seeing it, whatever number of times it hit it, 32 times, 30, whatever, right? So Post Everywhere. I'm gonna copy this link and put it into the chat here.
Oh, perfect. And I guess at the end, you can always use, you know, like a process of elimination. You can always like say like, hey, where you found me? And to the carrier. And maybe you can, you know, like, okay, he find me on DAT, or he find me over here on truckloads, or he find me 1, 2, 3, you know, and you just do one subscription. Then you say like, okay, most of my my hits are coming from this load board, so I'm just gonna start posting over here better than over there.
Right. So what you just described is something called analytics. So you basically you're getting data back to determine the frequency, which one is hitting more frequent than the other ones. And then whichever one you decide that is, then you utilize that one more to get better results. Someone just asked, how do you know about the commodity coming out of that state? Is there something that helps you learn? Researching the companies, what they haul, going to their websites and things like that, what's popular. And then over time, you will learn that. When you do your initial research, Rhonda, on those companies, you'll see what commodities or what freight, commodity and freight, same thing, that company has, whether it's produce, chicken, beverages, general freight, lumber, steel, rebar, whatever the freight is, and in that state. So, okay.
Thank you.
All right. People calling me left and right. I hate answering my phone in training.
Question. I got
yes.
a question for you. Will I need to be using one of these TMS systems for my trucking business?
You don't have to. You can, because out of the box, TMS systems out of the box, they're mainly designed for like brokers and shippers, but you can tweak the fields in the settings of the TMS system to cater to your trucking company. But I mean, if you got like 10 or less trucks, you could just use a simple spreadsheet to manage the workflow of your, and that'll be just one less expense monthly that you got to pay, right?
Right.
So yeah, so if you got 10 or less trucks, I mean, you know, just get a small database. Like Microsoft Office has access in Excel, PowerPoint, and Word. You can use an Excel and integrate it with the database access, use it. Or just get the free version of Ascend and use it, you know, just small. Just put your carriers right here where it says carriers. So this is the Ascend TMS system, Transportation Management Software. That's what it stands for. So this is the dashboard. It's giving you the average price, current fuel rates, and the line haul spot rates for each of the 3 major equipment types. So a flatbed, 243, reefer, 268, van, 246, and whether it's up or down and how many cents it went up from the previous week. So up 1 penny from last week to 246. So obviously last week it was 245, right? So, and on average highway diesel price is 238 on average highway diesel. So, and then this is the dash. So loads, you can build loads. You can search for loads that you already have in the TMS system. You can view loads and build a load. I usually, when I show people the TMS system, I usually go through and actually build a load to show you the process. Because as a broker, you need to understand whatever TMS system you have. If you decide to purchase one, well, you're actually going to need one to help you manage your brokerage, especially if you want to scale and grow. And then, so whoever you purchase it from, hopefully they have a team that can advise you and instruct you on how to properly navigate it. They'll set up either a Zoom call with you or something like that to show you, walk you through it. EDI tenders, where the EDI is electronic data interchange, where the load tender, there's a connection between you and the shipper, your brokerage and the shipper, where the data is sent electronically and populates your TMS system automatically, so you don't have to manually enter a lot of data. Now, there's some fields that you will have to replace, like you will replace the shipper's information with the carrier's information. You replace the load tender amount with your broker amount when you produce the rate confirmation side to send to the carrier. But when you invoice the shipper, of course, you're going to invoice them for the total amount that was on the load tender, right? So customers are from the broker's perspective, customers are the shippers. However many shippers you have, you can view customers, add customers as you bring them on board to your brokerage. Assets are any assets, truck and trailers that you have under your brokerage. Carriers are the carriers that you may have that are onboarded to your brokerage, like network carriers that you had do a broker carrier agreement that you got them under your brokerage. You ran them, you vetted them out, you took their MC number, their certificate of insurance or W-9, and you processed them in and made sure that they qualified to be in your brokerage, to be onboarded. Once they did, then you added them as a carrier, right? Assets are those truck and trailers that you already own, power only units, trailers, or drivers. Those are your assets if you have them under your brokerage. Okay.
As a dispatcher, will I need this for my a TMS system?
I know some people who are dispatchers that use Ascend, the basic Ascend TMS system, but they got about 10 trucks that they're managing. But again, you can use a spreadsheet for that as well. You know, so let me show you my spreadsheet for my 4 years ago that I had for the carriers that I was dispatching for, okay? To give you an idea that they can be done in a spreadsheet. So I got 7% and I got 10% carrier agreements back then. So here's the spreadsheet right here. Still, two years ago, 2000 January.
I cannot see the charts.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me share the screen. I apologize. There we go. Can you see it now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Signed agreements. All these carriers. These are all the carriers that I had under a dispatcher. Well, I still have. I just don't dispatch for a lot of them. They'll call me every now and then if they stuck somewhere and they need a load, but for the most, this is 2018, so about 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. But these are carriers. So 38 and 5, 33 carriers. And they're across different equipment types. Reefer, flatbed, dry van, and reefer. 2 flatbeds. So, you see?
Holy cow, you did all of them at the same time?
Not at the same time. About 10 of them at the same time, but all of them were under a dispatcher agreement.
What does the red mean? Like you don't work with them no more?
The red means that they were hot shot carriers. See, if you see it flatbed, 40 feet, 14,000 pounds. This one, 30 feet, hot shot, 10,500 pounds. They were in Texas.
So what does blue like? So you have like pretty much you have like a color code.
Yes, I do. And don't you steal it from me either.
No, well, we gonna have something, but I'm just saying, like, so that's just your pattern.
Yeah, you're probably checking media right now.
That's how you do it.
It was. I rarely go back. Now, what I'm going to do now is, because I'm still considering bringing the sub-dispatching back, I'm going to email these carriers and see where they are in there, because some of them may not be even driving anymore, right? This was 3 years ago, so
I know they're gonna rock with you.
Well, if they rock me, then they're gonna have to rock with the sub-dispatchers that I'm gonna assign them to. So, because I wanted to help those individuals who are struggling finding carriers to still learn how to dispatch at the same time. So, but these are the carriers, and this is a spreadsheet, right? This is a simple Excel spreadsheet: first name, last name, phone number, email, the equipment type, their DOT MC number, and the date that I got them under a dispatcher agreement. And there's some extra stuff. I should call this notes, right? I just say notes. Like I can put that in there and just say notes and go from there, right? So let me bring that over here. There we go. So, and then resave it. So because this is your company, right? So all these notes would be for you, something that you can remember. Like this right here: Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. These are the states that this person only wanted to run in. So I notated that. So when I found loads, I would know where to go, right?
How long it took for you to build it?
This took me about, I don't know, about a year.
Because this everybody's within that same year. So this is like a certain, like, this is just like a group of people that you was messing with within that certain year.
Oh yeah, I was pumping. I was pumping. I was pumping, LaShonda. I was moving weight.
You feel me? So
you are from Virginia. I listened to the clips.
Or what would you be using for invoicing?
For invoicing, I use Square and PayPal.
Okay.
I use Square and PayPal. Let me share the other screen. I use Square and PayPal to invoice. Right? So every time I had carriers that, and we're kind of going off on a tangent as far as the dispatching side, which is fine. I invoice the carriers with PayPal and Square. I would send them, some of my carriers would tell me to send them an invoice the moment they picked the load up, not when they delivered it, when they picked it up. Mm-hmm. Because certain loads that they picked up, they knew they were going to get paid. They knew they were going to get paid for, like a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 load. They picked it up. They say, yeah, send me your $500, $600, $700 invoice, because I charge 10%. Or in that list was a 7% list, so I charge 7%. Mm-hmm. So, but that's how we did it.
So,
okay.
Question: as a trucking company, is it good for me to sign with the factoring company? Because I've been having meetings with a couple. And that, I talk with them and all this and all that.
Yeah, if you don't have enough revenue to float your company to the point where you would need help with a factory company, then yeah. But if you got enough income to sustain your expenses and keep you afloat, and you don't need that extra expense of a factoring company, they don't really charge that much. I mean, 1 to 5%, depending on the type of factoring you get and the type of agreement you have, whether it's recourse or non-recourse and things like that. But starting out, for those who may not be in your position, I would recommend it, because it'll help keep that company afloat. Mm-hmm. to get paid up front. let the factoring company put that money in reserve and then release it once they get paid by the broker, stuff like that. So yeah, for those of you who are in that position, yes, then yeah, you would want to use a factoring company to help you until you're at a point where you no longer need them, where you built up enough revenue to not need that service anymore. Then you can go ahead and transition out of that relationship, you know. So Q&A.
Is there any way to, you know, catapult your, you know, broker business to be, you know, like successful at the beginning? Because I feel like brokers have the most hard time because, you know, they have everything against them because, you know, they based on the score, business score and stuff like that. So if you come brand new, they have a hard time. But if there's any way, you know, to bypass that, so, you know, cheapers, you know, take you more seriously?
I would say that statement you just made had a lot of hidden messages in it, right? So I'll tell you what I mean. Starting off as a new broker, knowing everything that you just said about the obstacles and the challenges that brokers have, when you first begin it, if you start doing everything like the young lady said earlier, I think it was Selena, if you broker with integrity and you do it the right way, then you won't come across those obstacles. You won't have those challenges because, you know, you're doing it the right way, right? You're brokering the right way. You're communicating with your customers correctly. You are being honest and concrete with them about the services you can provide. You are a logistics provider. These are the problems you can solve. You are a good salesperson when you are presenting yourself to your potential lead, your customer. They are leads, they're warm leads, then you convert those leads into customers, right? And how do they become warm leads? You do the research, you decide what your niche is as a broker. You do the research for that. Before you call that shipper or that gatekeeper, I would hope that a person would have done enough research on the company when they pick the phone up and they talk to that person in charge of logistics or shipping, that they would be so impressed about the conversation they had with you that they'll be willing to work with you because you would have told them, okay, I understand that you guys do this. I understand that these are your lanes. Where do I fit in there? How can I help you be a logistics provider for those lanes? I understand this is where you guys go. We have trucks in those areas, things like that. So it's how you present yourself based off of the information you have. And information is power. Well, knowledge is power. Information is just information, but knowledge is information applied, right? So knowledge is power. So as much knowledge about a company that you do research on, the better. I believe in quality over quantity. And what I mean is some broker trainings or some trainings in general will tell you to make a volume of calls, like make 100 calls a day, 500 calls a day. Well, that's okay, but I'd rather call 10 to 25 shippers and give them all of me, you know, as far as doing research on them, finding out about their company as much as I can, and really talking to them genuinely about it, as opposed to calling 100 people. Hey, this is Charles with Exodus Brokers. Can I move your freight? Hey, this is Charles with Exodus. I'm doing that 100 times, right? There's no value in that, right?
Hey, Charles.
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but can I piggyback off Alex's question?
Go ahead.
All right. So Alex and Charles, how can we make it a way so that way the dispatchers, since we all in the same team right now, how can we make it a way so that the dispatchers and the brokers, we have all like some kind of communication or some kind of way that we all networking with each other so we can make sure that we all eat at the end of the day?
Well, believe it or not, dispatchers actually, they're doing favors for the broker. So when dispatchers get carriers under a dispatch agreement, what do I teach you guys in the dispatcher side? To vet these carriers out, right? When you look them up, go on the Safer website, before you even call them to consider dispatching for them, you are vetting them out, checking their scores, doing all that stuff, right? So now when you call a broker about a load for that carrier, you've done most of the work for the broker. Now the broker is still going to bring them on and vet them out themselves as far as all the documents they need to vet them out. But the dispatcher has done that for them already. I used to connect with brokers as a dispatcher like this. I say, hey man, I'm a part of a network of dispatchers. We vet our carriers out. If you send me your list of loads, I can see if my carriers are able to. Now I'm not going to post those loads because I'm not a broker, but I will put them in my network of dispatchers who have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carriers, and we can expand your ability to find carriers for your loads for you. What broker in their right mind would not be willing to do that, right? That could be a way that you guys work together, the dispatchers and
that makes sense. That makes sense, Charles, right? So because just from the little time, I only been in this for a little time, and it feel like it's just from what I've been dealing with. Maybe because I don't know enough people. It just feel like it's like a disconnect between the dispatchers and the brokers. It's like they don't mess with us. They don't mess with the dispatchers.
A lot of it is ignorance. A lot of it is miscommunication, and a lot of it is conjecture. A lot of lies going around, and ignorance meaning like either on the broker side or on the dispatcher side. Some people may not know what they're doing fully, right? So, like the point Selena said, bringing back the integrity part of it. Even on the dispatching side, there needs to be integrity about it. Because I do not teach the dispatchers who come through my dispatcher training to act as brokers. I don't tell any of my dispatchers to post loads on a load board because that is not the job of a dispatcher. The job of a dispatcher is to find loads for their carriers, to keep their carriers running, booking loads for them. It's not to post loads on a load board. So it'll happen in time, Eddie. I know how you're feeling right now because I felt that. Yeah. I felt that way about 4 years ago.
Well, I'm working with all dispatchers.
Right. Hey, so I like that. I like that, Joy.
Because
I like that.
Because we help the brokers. I teach brokers to vet. I teach them to vet your carriers out before you bring them under a dispatcher agreement for your dispatching company. So when you call brokers to book loads for them, you pretty much done the work for the broker. Now the broker, by law, they still have to do their process to onboard them, of course. But you let the brokers know, like, look, we got a network of dispatchers who have hundreds of carriers, right? We got like hundreds of dispatchers who have maybe 1 or 2 carriers. So that's 100 to 200 carriers. So if you can plug your loads into our network, you increase your chances of finding a carrier for your load. So why don't we work together? And the next thing the broker should do, what's your email address? So I can send you my loads.
There we go.
Cause I'm with it.
because that's free.
It's networking. It's networking. Right. Mm-hmm. Instead of the broker having to do everything. Because I don't want to do all that. You can get dispatchers. Like you said, you have agents, broker agents. So, it would be one and the same.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this on a local network now, because if we all on the same team, we got Joy, we got Charles, we got me.
And you got me with Trent.
All together, how can, exactly.
I'm ready, Joy.
How can we all work together somehow, some way, and to make sure that everybody that's involved with the dispatcher 101 or the freight breaker 101 crew win together, because we have dispatchers and brokers all within the same network? How can we make this work out to something bigger?
It makes sense, Charles. You need to get on that.
And carriers, Charles, because I'm dispatch carriers.
Listen. I've been trying to do this. Look, Eddie's the only one who's had this aha moment, right? Like
I'm an enforcer. Hey, Charles, okay, wait, Charles, wait, don't go into it. Y'all know about gangs and stuff. I'm an enforcer. Like, I'm the type of person that'd be like, yo, why are we not doing this instead of putting other. I'm from the islands. I'm born in America, but my family is Haitian. So I understand like about unity and we need to stick together as a culture. This is a culture. Like this trucking business, it's a culture. So if we already have somebody like Charles, look how brilliant Charles is. Like when they call you Professor Charles in our class, You know what I think about? I think about X-Man. I'd be like, man, this man is literally Professor Charles. No wheelchair involved. Bald head, but no wheelchair involved. You is the mastermind behind all this. So how can Professor Charles take all his X-Men and put them together?
X-women, don't forget.
And X-women, you know, and put them together. It's a Marvel thing, and make us all some elite soldiers for you.
Well, and that's what I've been trying to do, but you have the aha moment. There's other people have the aha moment too, but we can exist cohesively as a unit. Like you got somebody who have all the trucks, like LaShonda has all the trucks. We got several brokers here. We got Amy, we got Joy, we got Mr. Nelson, and we got dispatchers here who are willing to work and eat. So why not come together and then just the brokers get the shippers that the trucking company that Shonda needs to move the capacity in, and the dispatchers can dispatch for. I mean,
right, and build an association. You know what I'm saying?
You see what you just said? You see what you just said? Is there a way that we can make the back office a way that we can all network with each other?
Well, I'm doing that right here under ELCC.
Oh, I knew something looked different about the back office when I checked it earlier.
I got affiliates. I'm creating affiliates and partners in here, and I'm adding, like James is in here, Hollis in here.
Where LaShonda at then?
I always say James because he's very quiet, but he's very.
Oh yeah, he's Mr. Nelson. He's the silent assassin. If he speak, he gonna blow your mind.
Exactly.
So, Mr. Nelson,
I'm just listening to everybody else right now.
Yeah, Mr. Nelson. They want
What you think, James? You the boss right now. I seen your post. Trust me, I seen your post, and I reposted it.
No, I'm not the boss, but I bring 36 years of experience in the trucking industry to the table.
Oh, wow.
32 years as a driver, over 3,000 miles, 3 million miles logged.
This sound like a $10 million plan right here. And we sitting on a Zoom meeting right now that I shouldn't even be in. But I'm here, and I feel like we have just in this room right here, it's only 13 of us. And we have a way that we can actually build a $10 million business just between the group 13 people.
I want to go back and touch on something that you guys were talking about earlier, as far as how do you operate as a broker with assets, and the way that you operate as a broker with assets and keep your businesses separate is do it under two different authorities. Do it under two business names. Yet again, at the same time, you're still an asset-based brokerage firm. You're just operating under two different authorities and not two different business names. You can operate under the same business name, but you have to do it as a DBA, doing business as.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I was told. Yeah.
As a part of your business.
That'd be considered the same EIN, but just a different. It would still be the same EIN, just a different DBA.
Same EIN, different DBA, and a different authority.
Okay.
And also with the trailer aspect of it, you can be a full-fledged asset brokerage and not own a trailer at all. I mean, not own a truck at all. You can own trailers. I'll give you an example of one company out there right now, DART. DART is an all owner-operator owned company. They don't have a tractor of their own. All of those are owner-operators, and they do run under DART's authority. But yeah, as far as buying trailers, I would buy trailers, which that's my objective is to eventually become an asset-based brokerage, and I'm going to buy trailers, and then I'm going to lease on owner-operators under my authority.
There you go.
Couldn't wait for him to talk. I really couldn't.
Rhonda said she couldn't wait for James to talk, huh?
Well, I mean, if you guys got a few questions, I mean, if Charles will allow me, I'll help you guys as much as I can.
This the part time of the day.
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes of Q&A. Anyone has a question for Mr. Nelson?
No, let's keep networking. This is beautiful right now.
That's what I'm saying, Mr. Nelson.
This is black magic at its finest.
Say again?
Any
This is
questions?
black magic at its finest.
I have a question.
Okay,
Okay.
LaShonda.
Question. Now, being that I went under, did the stuff with Charles for the dispatching.
Mhm.
And like I said, I went ahead and started an authority for a trucking company. Does it make sense to dispatch my trucks with my dispatching fee? Should I charge my company that fee as well?
You bought trucks under your authority, and you want to charge your trucks a fee to dispatch your own trucks?
This, what I'm asking is, when I get the, pull the loads off the board,
Mm-hmm.
and I do that 7 to 10% like Charles was talking about, because I'm dispatching under a DBA, a different DBA.
Yeah, but are you licensed under a brokerage authority yet?
Not under a brokerage.
Okay, if you're not licensed under a brokerage authority, then you can still pull from the load boards and dispatch your trucks.
Okay.
Because what you're doing, you're actually getting your fees from your driver. You're going to the load board and you're pulling other loads through from brokers to dispatch your trucks.
Mm-hmm.
But once you obtain that authority,
Mm-hmm.
you can't go to the load boards and pull loads off the load board.
No.
Dispatch. You'll have to, now if you have a dispatcher, that's an independently contracted dispatcher to you, because they can't be on your payroll.
Correct.
You know, they can be an independently contracted dispatcher that only comes in and dispatches not only for you, but for other people. Then that dispatcher can go to the load board for you, even though you own the trucks, you own a brokerage, but it does not connect you to an employee that works for you, that's looking at other shippers, other
Right.
brokers' loads coming off the load board.
Okay, so I can do that as long as I don't become a broker person.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Now, James, I ain't gonna lie, I got a lot of questions. That's the only reason why I'm in the chat right now. I shouldn't even be here right now.
Anyone else before Eddie?
We gonna need at least an extra 10 minutes. I ain't trying to put you on the couch now, but we need an extra 10 minutes.
So who else besides Eddie has a question?
Fire it up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right? Especially for those who came in as individuals who were curious about brokering and who were wanting to consider becoming a broker.
Well, Charles,
I have a question.
I know that you said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, Selena, I was saying Selena, go ahead.
I know that you said this is a beginner's class, but I'm gonna be very honest. This ain't very well advanced. I've done my best to keep up great information, great people. I thank God that I did come on, because, you know, just seeing so many Black people doing their thing it's encouraging, but it was way ahead of my my pace.
Yeah, and I will definitely circle back around for you, because you're at the point where you are in the process of getting everything in order to have your broker authority become active, right?
Right.
So then
Right.
once you are at that point, then it's like, what's next? The next step for you, once you become active, you need to start like building your credit up. What are some steps to do that? And then you need to start thinking about what your niche is going to be as far as what types of shippers you're going to go after, right? Are you going to go after shippers that has commodities that go on dry vans, flatbeds, or reefers? And then that's what your next focal points will be. And then the question, and then how is that done, you know, step by step? So that's your next step after you go through your authority becoming active. Okay.
Charles, one question for you.
Yes.
So you right now, you have a dispatch training and have a freight broker training. Are you planning on going to a carrier training? So people that want to, you know, start their own carrier.
I did have trucking 101, but at the time when I put it on this website, it didn't have a lot of traction, right? So I said, well, I'm not gonna keep it up there because people wasn't interested at the time, or either that or I didn't market it very well. But it's not, it shouldn't be that difficult to explain. Plus the fact we have an individual, Mr. Nelson, who has 30 some odd years of trucking experience. So he would be the perfect person to lean on as far as, you mean as far as starting a trucking company, like getting your authority, getting the insurance?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, the process that I have with me right now, I'm your dispatcher training. I cashing everything I can, trying to learn how to dispatch trucks and everything. My future goals, open my own authority by the beginning of summer or midsummer with the help of somebody else. And in the meantime, I'm interested about broking too. So I got, learn all the aspects, the movement or the ground movement, to say the least. Right now, one really crazy thing that's happening to me, from this passion, I was like, hey, let me help my people, my community, whatever I can, because I speak Spanish.
Okay.
And I got people from all over the place asking all these crazy questions. Like, hey, can you dispatch hot shots? Can you dispatch box trucks? Can you help me move dump trucks and stuff like that? I go like, holy cow. So there's a lot of stuff out there. And you were mentioned just starting with reefer band and flatbed. No limiting yourself, but there's just so much stuff out there. So that I'm trying to comprehend the most. And in carrier, I would like the opportunity because there's a lot of people out there that talk about the carrier side from the side of the owner operator. For me, in my experience, I never driven a truck, a manual transmission truck. I used to drive trucks for the military, 20 times, 10 times, but they're all automatics. So I don't know too much about manual transmissions.
You were 88 Mike when you was in the military?
No, 88 Mike, believe it or not, I was an engineer.
Oh, okay.
So, so a lot of dump trucks. So I wish now that I was 88 Mike, but it's a whole different story.
A whole different game, yeah.
yeah. As soon as I saw, believe me or not, I saw the ratio for 88 miles, I was like, ooh, my wife's not gonna like that. But it's a whole transition that I wanted to do, and since you're helping me with the dispatcher, and now you gave me the opportunity to, see a little bit more about the broker side, I was trying to get your point of view for carrier, how we should go about that, because I want to start with one truck, but eventually I want to move probably to 5 trucks and see how it goes from there.
Okay, let me ask you this. So you mentioned dispatcher, you mentioned trucking, you mentioned brokerage. So my first suggestion to you is to choose one, whichever one is the easiest entry point for you, because you don't want to try to do all 3 of them at the same time because you drive yourself crazy, right? So choose one, whichever one is the easiest entry point. I think that'll be dispatching because there's less overhead for you.
You're right.
Trucking has overhead costs. Certainly freight brokering has overhead costs. Dispatching has overhead costs, but not as much, right? And it doesn't require any types of licensing, like no authorities, no insurance, things like that. So, but you have to, and I can't answer this question for you. You have to answer it yourself. Which one of those 3 are you most passionate about, right? Which one of those 3 do you find that you would enjoy doing sooner than later, right?
I mean, for me, the most passionate be about first thing, everything, help my family. But second thing, help my people, help everybody. I've seen a lot of people asking for help out there and trying to help the most. And I feel a little passionate about everything, to be honest with you. I like the dispatching side. I like the carrier side. Even if I haven't even tried yet, just from seeing how everything works, it's really interesting how everything moves around here. And believe me, I have a degree in international business. So I used to see like freight dispatchers and all that stuff. So I see like the big, brokers on steroids, like you call it one time. So I didn't saw this part, and it just came out from an opportunity. A friend of mine said like, hey, I need some investors I can do, my carrier. I was like, okay, man, I'll help you out. And, I put some of them so you can buy a couple trucks. And, from there, we see like, okay, it definitely has some traction. And more than just the money, I see a lot of ways to help people and help my family with it. So I like everything. I like everything, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, the easiest entry point of the 3 would be dispatching, of course. In my opinion, now of course, everybody has a different perspective on that. But Yeah, dispatching would be the easiest entry point.
Yeah, and by the way, in dispatching, I already have 2 carriers, so
okay,
so
you just enrolled into the course too, right?
yeah. I'm telling you, I just went to Facebook, joined a couple groups, put like, hey, if anybody need help with dispatching, give me a call. I can probably, give you a quote right away. How much I'm gonna charge. I'm not gonna charge that much. Right now, I'm charging just like 5%, just because I'm trying to learn.
Did you join the owner operators in Espanol?
Yeah, basically. I'm Cuban, so my people, they're all over the place, and
so that's a good niche
so,
because you can target Spanish-speaking owner operators. They'll be more willing to work with you because you speak the language.
Most definitely. That's what I'm trying to get the niche from. And I mean, I don't mind, helping out people that don't speak Spanish. Obviously, I can help anybody. I don't mind that. It's just like as soon as I post it out there, I got people, from Florida, people from Texas, and be like, hey man, help me with the moving up some stuff, moving up stuff for hot shops and then for box trucks. And I was like, holy cow.
Okay. All right, we'll talk offline about it.
Sure, man. You probably recognize me. I've been sending you a message left and right.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that questions a lot.
I already know. All right, Alex. Eddie.
Yes, sir.
2 questions only, Eddie. For Mr. Nelson.
To be honest with you, I'm about to revert my questions back. It's kind of split between Alex and Mr. Nelson.
Okay.
All right. So now look, you see how I'm gonna start off with Alex. You see how you say that you was trying to do it for your community, right? I'm an island boy, so I'm everything I'm doing for the Haitian community. So I'm trying to figure out how can I do something for my peoples, because I know a lot of my peoples, they CDL truck drivers, but they steady working for people who doing this and that. I'm trying to figure out how we can get everybody else up out the system where they're working for somebody, or if they're not just working for somebody, we doing something bigger than just working for somebody.
Okay, let me jump in on that. The best way that you can help, the culture, whether it's the Latino culture, the Haitian culture, the Black culture, you first have to establish your base first, right? Get yourself established, get your company established, whether it's a brokerage, whether it's a dispatching company, whether it's a trucking company, right? Get it established to the point where you have a need now to scale your business. So when you are in a need to scale your business, then you can begin to hire the culture, right? Bring them on. But you cannot help someone unless you help yourself first, right? You have to establish your own foundation, right?
That's why I'm here.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So there's an old African proverb. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Eat an elephant one bite at a time, right?
There's no other way around it. There's no other way around it.
Exactly. So, right? So you can't, success does not have an elevator. You got to take the stairs.
All right.
You got to take the stairs. Success does not have an elevator. You got to take the stairs. So one step at a time, one bite at a time. So the first bite is you. The first bite starts with you, getting yourself in order, getting all the things in place from a company's perspective, from a knowledge perspective, understanding how to do the things in the industry that you are involved in, whether it's brokering, whether it's dispatching, whether it's a trucking company. You have to get as much knowledge about it, get with people, network with people who know about it, who has the experience, who's been through it, and who are willing to work with you, right? Me personally, I'm a people person. I like helping people, winning wherever I can, at any time I can, right? So you want to feel that same energy, right? So if we're not family or friends, we don't vibrate. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
We don't vibrate. We're not family or friends. I don't vibrate with you. We're not on the same frequency, right? So it's so get yourself together first. Establish your own foundation with your own business. Learn the ins and outs of your business, how to get it established. What's the legal structure? Tomorrow, I'm gonna have my certified public accountant on the training tomorrow. My CPA. He's
Okay.
Caucasian.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff.
He's Caucasian, but he's a bad dude. Trust me.
All right. Yeah.
He may
Now,
take over the training because all the questions. I'm gonna send him an invite. I was talking to him today. I'm gonna send him an invite. I said I got a lot of people who want to ask you tax questions. Probably gonna be some clients of yours afterwards, but trust me when I just trust me. But
I trust it.
Establish yourself first because you cannot help others until you
help yourself.
Right.
I have to get myself right in order for me to help other people.
Right.
It is.
Even in the process of getting yourself together, there's challenges that's gonna occur. There's patience.
Yeah, we gotta overcome. Every day I'm overcoming challenges. I'm going through things that I'd be like, oh, it's trying to divert me from the plan that I originally tried to. You know what we talked about when we originally started, and I was like, man, I'm going through so much stuff right now as a black brother, and you was like, man, look, I'm gonna do this. You know what I'm saying?
And what did I do?
And then you understood where I was coming from, and you.
Right.
But I understand what you mean by that.
Right. Did I not keep my word?
You kept your word, and now it's time for me to keep my word for somebody else.
Right. Pay it.
You know what I'm saying?
There's a saying in that. Pay it forward. So someone helped you, you help someone else.
Somebody else.
You cannot help someone else until you got to get yourself together first to help someone else.
T-Dot, give me 5 minutes. I'm gonna call you right
back. Same thing with you, Alex. Same thing with you. You want to help your culture, Alex, too. You know, you get yourself in order first. You decide which one you want to get into. Maybe all three is not for you yet, Alex. Maybe you want to master one first and then get into the other and then get into the other. It may have to be a progression. But if you try to do all of them at the same time, you may become overwhelmed and then you may become discouraged. So I just caution you to be careful when you make that decision if you want to do all three at the same time.
Hey, look,
most definitely.
I like Alex.
Go ahead.
I love to link up with you, Alex.
Yeah, man. What should I put it? Whatever. I can put my phone up. I can put my email up. Whatever you want to do. I understand Charles where he's coming from, and I tried to do it in the past to help out a lot of people. And I understand, when you want to help yourself first. That's what I say: family first, and then help out whoever I can. I'm already have some good deeds done, so I'm proud about that. Even I have helped people right now that they want a dispatcher, and they want a box truck dispatcher. And I had no idea, but I get in contact with a box truck dispatcher, and I was able to pass this along to this person. So I feel nice about that. And I understand that I don't want to go against all three because it's more that I can eat right now. But I want to learn. That's what I'm here for. I want to learn so I can make my decisions based on that experience and the learning. In the meantime, tell me I'm gonna go focus ahead on dispatching. I like the broker side because I'm trying to understand the people that I'm speaking to on the other side of the phone. Because most of the times right now when I deal with Coyote, when I deal with Lone Star, all these people, big broker companies, most of them they don't even show interest. I know when I'm speaking with somebody like small broker because they right away they're like, hey man, what's going on? You tell me, blah blah blah. But I wanted to know. I just wanted to know to understand more.
Okay, so let me circle back around to tonight's Freight Broker 101 before we get off. Those who are in this call who are curious about being freight brokers, and it started off basic, but it kind of got advanced when I broke down a little bit of Joy's process. We kind of got a little bit into it, but this platform is designed for beginners, right? Even though we kind of do a little bit of advanced stuff. Now, our Friday broker trainings, we have Agility on there. That's a new brokerage, but they are in it to win it as well. So, but this is a beginner platform. Those who know very little, if anything, about being freight brokers, once I get my authority, or even if I don't have my authority, what's the steps in getting my authority? What's all involved in that? After that, how do I build my credit? What are the techniques of going after shippers? What are the resources you have in your back office to go after shippers? How is that done? when I get a shipper, what do I say to convince them to bring me on as one of their logistics providers? That is the goal and the purpose of Freight Broker 101. Even after that, after you are brought on as a logistics provider for that shipper, what's the movement of that freight from the load tender being given to me by the shipper to the time that my carrier delivers and everything in between? That's from a broker's perspective. That is the goal and the purpose of Freight Broker 101. If you want to be a part of that, you are certainly welcome to decide to enroll. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I'll put my information in here for those of you who are interested in that, because we didn't really get into the basic part of it. We just got into the workflow of movement of a load, but we got to go into a little bit more granular basic detail of it. So Friday is the next Freight Broker 101 training. And at 6 p.m. it's the same time, it's the same Zoom link to get here. And we'll probably revisit some basic tenets of brokering so we can get everybody who is on the call kind of acclimated to that. Even those who are brokers, those who are brokers, there are still some things that you probably can hear that will benefit you. You know what I'm saying? There's never information that you couldn't benefit from, right? So,
Charles, can we talk a little bit about what we're trying to do together?
As far as the networking side, you mean you and I, Switchback?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've known Charles probably since he started dispatching. We kind of crossed each other's paths semi, but not really, but yet again at the same time. And I watched him grow, and I watched him put together what he's put together. At that particular time, I still was working a job, and I retired after 20 years of being with one company. But my focus and my goal was to build a freight brokerage. And so that's what I retired into. Well, after talking with Charles about some things and seeing which direction he was going with his dispatching, is doing great, I looked at his freight broker side and I said, you know, what way is it that I can come in and be involved and yet again at the same time be able to help him and to help him grow at the same time and advance my cause. I decided along with him that I would come in and offer my services to whomever was interested in becoming a freight broker and to help them to get to the next level in an advanced state of freight brokering. And that means that if you're coming in as a freight broker and your primary goal is to become a freight broker, he's teaching freight brokering 101. What I'm doing later on in his program, perhaps after 6 or 7 months of training, is giving those people who are in this program an opportunity to come on board and work as an agent, because I understand the cost of putting together a freight brokerage. And so therefore, working as an agent, you have an opportunity to work somewhat to try to get yourself carriers, to build your book of business, to work under somebody else's authority. At the same time, within a 6 to 9 month period, then you begin to put your company together, structure your company, and build your business credit. By the time a year rolls around, if everything works and you put forth the effort, by the time you step out on your own, you'll be a full-fledged freight broker with a book of business and business credit to move forward. I believe that platform will give a person an opportunity to not have to struggle as hard to put together everything that it takes to become a freight broker, to give you time to make money under somebody else's authority, and to be able to build from there. And then by the time you get yourself 100% structured, say maybe in a year's time, then you'll walk out with a book of business already in business.
There you go.
Well, perfect. I appreciate the opportunity even before him. I know you said a couple months, further away, but you know, whatever we learn from here and from a little bit of coaching, we can help your guys set it up, because I know I know that you guys helped me. I know Charles helped me, so I'm willing to return that back to him. And I mentioned him to him when I joined. Like whatever you need, I'm your man. Let me know. I appreciate the help.
Great, great. All right.
All right. Wait. I still got one question left.
Go ahead.
Not a big question though, but James, I see what you're doing, and I'm proud of you. First of all, I'd love to give you a hand clap. You did your thing. I reposted you, but I definitely want to be part of what you got going on. I like what y'all boys got going on, and what can we do as a team to help you make this thing bigger than what it's supposed to be, or what it's about to be?
My answer to you is to commit yourself to what you're doing. Commit yourself to learning from Charles all that you can get from Charles. One thing that you have to understand, that freight brokering is just like truck driving. Truck driving is a 24-hour-a-day job. You know, whether you're driving or not, you leave out of the yard on a Monday, you own that truck until you come back 7, 8, 9 days later. You own the job 100% of the time. Same difference with truck driving. Same difference with freight brokering.
I feel the same way about dispatching, because my
Right.
carriers call me in the middle of the night, like things happen.
Right. I mean, you're constantly
I have
learning.
things happen in the middle of the night, and it hurts.
Yeah.
But I get up and I answer that call because I understand they out there on the road.
Right. I mean, you're constantly learning, and it's always a situation of, I heard the saying at one point in time that can't nobody teach me nothing. I know everything. Well, one thing I know throughout my tenure in this business, 36 years in the industry, I've learned a lot of things from a lot of people. And some people I've learned were older than me. Some people I've learned from were younger than me. But the thing about it is that you can learn from anybody something. And one thing about it is, whatever you learn, don't be afraid to share it. Because I do know that in this industry, it's enough for everybody out here in this industry if you're working hard and you're putting in the effort to go get it. I mean, so don't be afraid that, well, if I share this with them, that, well, they're going to do better than me. I mean, they can have all of the leads in the world and they can have all the customers in the world, but they can have poor management skills, or they could have the best management skills, but don't have a clue in the world how to pick a core driver or a core carrier. So the thing about it is, it's a learning process, and the more and more you commit yourself to learning everything that you can learn, read, listen, look, talk to, gather information from. Get yourself some truck driver friends if you don't have any truck driver friends, because they're going to do two things. They're going to teach you some things about how the industry works and how they operate, or they're going to lie to you. Bottom line. But
That's all I've been seeing lately. They be like, "Oh yeah, I got you, man. Don't worry, man. I'll pick up."
Right.
You call them next day, they don't even answer the phone.
I mean, but the fact of the matter is, believe it or not, they know the industry better than anybody. And they are the most valuable asset that you as a broker will ever have. That shipper is going to sit there and pack it. He's going to sit there and arrange it. He's going to sit there and stage it. But until that carrier goes and backs up to the door and takes it from one part of the country to the other, nobody gets paid.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
All right. Hey, James. I don't know how we can do this. I don't know if you want to drop your information. Well, we have it it's in the ELLC.
Yeah, y'all got it.
Yeah, all right. Don't worry. I got it. I'll hit you up. I'll send you a text message.
Well, that's fine.
Hey, Charles, last question.
Yes,
Quick question. Do you have a CDL?
I do.
You do? Holy cow. You still keep it?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Why
Good
not?
stuff. That's what I say. Like, I need to get mine one of these days.
Class A. Yeah. I don't have any endorsements, but I got an A. I got an A. Yeah.
For how many years now? Like over 10, something like that?
Yeah, way over. Yeah. And it's just mainly just maintaining the DOT physicals and all this other stuff, and just renewing the license when it expires. You know, just basic stuff. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, I got a license before they were CDLs.
right,
What they were called.
They were just Class A license.
Class A licenses. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You went down to the Department of Public Safety. You made 3 right-hand turns, 3 left-hand turns. You backed up, and they gave you a license.
And ELD exempt.
Well, ELD logbook.
Logbook, paper log.
Yeah, paper log. One to show the
ELD
police and one to turn into the company.
Yep. ELD exempt because of the age of the truck and everything. So yeah.
Right.
Hey,
So,
hey,
so how do
James.
you become affiliates?
Affiliate 2.
Right here on the website.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just put your information. So you want your brokerage to be up here?
I sure do. I need to know what I'm talking about first, as soon as you get me where I'm at.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll put you up here because what people are going to do is, what the dispatchers are going to do is, from dispatcher one-on-one, I would direct them over to the affiliate section to look up brokerages to call based off of the commodities and see what kind of lanes you have, and if we got carriers in our dispatching companies that can move loads in your lanes. Now, mind you, those rates got to be good, right? In order for somebody to move.
Oh yeah, because you teaching me how to get me some more money. I ain't saying what she's talking about. I'm gonna tell her what I need.
Exactly, because again, we always go back to the carrier's perspective. It's all about the carrier. That lane that you quoted that was 1,440 miles, but it was only paying $22.75. There was nowhere, and it was going to an area that was a dead zone. It's hard to get a carrier to move that, right? And now, if it was 3,500, somebody might consider it, but then you still got to find something out of Wyoming, right? You may have to deadhead over to another state to pick up something and then come out. So those are as a broker, those are the things that you got to think about. You know, with dealing with shippers that just throw numbers at you, and they may not consider the livelihood or the likelihood of a carrier taking that load, right? So, but I can, whenever you're ready to put your information in, I can just let me know, Joy.
Okay.
But you got, how many shippers do you have? Like 2 or 3 of them already?
No, I only have one.
You got
Just
the
her.
one. Okay.
She the one with the load going down to Pembroke, Florida.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, you gotta dispatch that carrier in interstate to get him out of the state.
Right.
In other words, you're not gonna be able to take him all the way back to Georgia. You may be able to take him up to Tampa Bay, or else across to another city, and then you're under dispatching probably 2 or 3 times within the state to get him out of back to the top of the state.
Yeah. From Pembroke to Tampa Bay, maybe Tampa Bay to Tallahassee or Jacksonville.
Right.
Maybe from there, maybe to like Tipton, Georgia, because there's some DCs over there in Tipton.
Right.
So, yeah.
You're gonna do him the short day jumps, to get him out of the state, because if you're looking for a direct load coming all the way from down to the tip end of Florida and about Miami, that ain't happening.
No, sir. No, sir. So, but it's good to know that, Joy, right? You gotta, knowledge is power. So, all right, guys. Well, I guess Friday we'll be over in the other one. James, did you get the email from Agility about next Wednesday?
Yeah, she wants to talk about something. Oh yeah, I know what it is. Yeah, I'll make sure I'll get there.
Okay.
So,
all
yeah.
Right. All right,
thanks,
guys.
James. Thanks, Alex.
All righty.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
The rest of the fam, LaShonda,
All right. Thank y'all.
All right, guys.
Aya, Joy, Tamala.
Shonda. All right.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Hit me up, I'm ready.
Hey, Charles, wait, you need to make we should make a back office system so everybody can network with each other. So we're not just strangers.
I'm going to put a, on this website, I might put an internal chat group on the website.
Right, it'll be perfect. Like,
yes,
if they agree to being on there.
Yes, but I still need well, on the dispatching side, I still need video testimonials so I can put on the website too. But
hey, wait, hold on, babe, because my girl, she's a YouTube blogger. if you go on YouTube and you put moving on up with the Monvilles, you're gonna see like we got a blogging channel.
Yeah, but all I need you to do is send me an MP4 video of you the
testimonial how things done.
Dispatcher, yeah, and then I'll upload that to my YouTube channel. Yes.
I'm gonna work on it. You'll get it by this weekend. You'll get it by this weekend.
Okay, that's cool.
All right then. Bye, Charles.
All right.
Call me, LaShonda.
I got you. I'm gonna call you.
All right.
All right.